beast stalker, giant stalker, dragon stalker, crypt stalker, demon stalker, rift stalker, grom stalker, crypt stalker, scourge stalker, wind runner. I'm a pony, lead skill hunter, a death dealer, a life stealer. That's just the cost of being awesome.
Welcome to episode 217 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from Thrill of the Wild, the Warcraft Hunters Union, and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beasts, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak Well on Twitter.
And I'm Artemishowl from the beach and at Artemishowl on Twitter, as well as the Warcraft Hunters Union.
Today is Sunday, May 17th, 2015, and we are broadcasting live on twitch.tv. You can participate in the live chat room where our lovely moderator, Ali Sonder, is there to take your questions as always. So, hey, we've got a full house today and a show. This is great. We've got like no news to talk about for the most part, but we're here. So how's everybody doing? Good?
Yeah,
Okay.
good times. I was sad we missed last week, but it didn't sound like anybody could come, so good times.
No, well,
Mother's
it was-
Day, man.
I know it was
Gotta
Mother's
talk about
Day.
mommies.
It was poor planning on our part. Well, I said today's Hunter's Day, so we're here. We'll talk about hunters. Why don't we just jump into the patch 6.2 stuff? It's still going on the PTR. There's raid testing, and but not much in the way it changes. But I think since the last time we did the show, we've learned a little bit more about the set bonuses and the weapons, and maybe even the trinkets that are coming out. So figured we could talk about that a little bit and see kind of how things are looking for all three of the specs going into Hellfire Citadel. So, Delirium, why don't you talk? So, let's talk about Trank Shot because they made a change to that. Why don't you go over what that change is?
Yeah, so this has been pretty interesting. Basically, Trank Shot's baseline functionality is swapping with the glyph. So it used to be, we had focus cost and no cooldown, and with the glyph, you could get it for free. And now it's backwards of that way. So it's baseline going to have no focus cost and a 10-second CD, and the glyph will put it at 40 focus and no CD. Which just seems like there's pretty mixed reactions, or nobody's quite sure how to feel about that yet. It looks like for Beast Mastery PvPers, the glyph is going to be pretty mandatory. But everybody else is kind of just depends on what you're doing, I guess.
So what makes the glyph mandatory then for Beastmasters and PvP?
So at least how it works right now, casting a Trank Shot during Bestial Wrath does more damage. It doesn't do any damage itself, but it stops healing and stops buffs. So it acts as though it was doing more damage than casting an Arcane Shot would normally do. So you're better off spamming Trank Shots than you are if you're say going against a Resto Druid or a Pally. You'll do more net damage to them, or cause more damage to them if you're casting Trank Shots instead of Arcane Shots, which is weird. I don't know if that was in the realm of possibilities, but with that half cost, it'll still only be 20 focus out of 120. So it looks like that'll still be a pretty viable strategy for Beastmaster PvPers.
Yeah, and again, I guess the key there is casting it while under Bestial Wrath, so the focus cost is 20 instead of 40.
Right.
Yeah, which is the key thing there. I mean, is anyone else any real thoughts about this? I mean, PvE doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, Bendak, what do you think about the Trank Shot change?
In terms of rating, I like it because the fights where you needed Trank Shot, you pretty much had to use the glyph, so it's just another glyph slot. Now I can keep using my glyph of disengage or whatever else I was going to use. So from a PvE perspective, I don't see any point where I would use the new glyph because 40 focus is just it's just too much deeps.
Yeah, the only time I can think of that we had to cast it more than that was challenge modes in MOP. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of one where we need it more often than 10 seconds in challenge modes now, but there might be one I'm not thinking of. In MLP, there were a couple where we had to have it, way more than 10 seconds.
And Artemis, your thoughts on the glyph change or the trank shot change? Did we lose Artemis?
Wave
Yeah,
came in.
because it really does help for PvE, because I found myself really frustrated with the current change, and there's some fights even right now where I'm like, okay, I really need a spell, but you're costing me a kill command, please. And it's just a really nice change to the PvE scene. Not quite sure how it's going to change PvP too much outside of what you were talking about with BM, but I don't know. It's good.
Yeah, I was glad to hear what you were talking about as far as the PvP and the Beastmaster, because beyond that, it just seemed to me that the glyph was going to be worthless for the most part. Not something that you would look to use under most circumstances. Not as bad as what is it, the glyph of aspect of the pack per se, but kind of hanging out with them at the bar, so to speak.
You mean glyph of the lean pack?
The lean pack, excuse me. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah,
I still think that glyph is just a giant joke or something.
That's the best glyph ever.
It's a major glyph. I don't get it. And then the minor glyph extends the range, and the major glyph decreases it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's just one of those odd things that. And when did they introduce? They introduced it like late in MOP 2, if I recall. It was like towards the end. It wasn't even coming in at the beginning
gift
of that expansion. It just sort of popped up out of nowhere and just made no sense whatsoever. To trying to figure out. In fact, if any of our listeners are out there have used it or know of a good use for it, let us know, because I'm stumped. I've never used it. I think of if you want to use aspect of the pack and kind of be a jerk about it, would be no help to your raid whatsoever. But you might as well just do cheetah at that point.
Well, if you want to be a jerk, you use the other glyph to extend
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So, but that's it. But yeah, I think for PvE, the zero focus cost in the 10 seconds probably fine for most circumstances for trank shot. So why don't we talk about the weapons real quick? Because I think one of the things we on the last show we mentioned that the first boss in Hellfire Citadel was going to drop a ranged weapon, which was a nice change of pace given how difficult they were to come by this time around, that you had to wait for Maidens and Blast Furnace. So you got pretty deep into Blackrock Foundry before you got a hint of a ranged weapon. So I know we're going to get them off the first boss, but what did you notice about them, Bendak? I'll ask you, because is the item level, like we've noticed that some of the weapons that drop the higher you go into Hellfire Citadel, the item level was increasing.
Yeah, I think there's 4 tiers of item levels within each like difficulty. So there's, for example, the range weapons. The one off the first boss is 690. That's in normal mode, and then the next one is 695, and then the next one is 700, and that's all within the same difficulty. And then I think the final boss is even 5 above that, but we don't have any weapons on that boss, unfortunately.
So for the hunters, then, so what does it look like then in terms of the bosses and the drops and the item level for our ranged weapons this time?
Well, I believe there was the gun off the first boss, and then I believe the crossbow was, I think it was on like the 8th boss, and then the bow is on the second last boss. So it's pretty well spread out. I mean, there's a good chance you're gonna get your hands on the gun at least. It won't be a huge upgrade though, because it's only 5 item levels above the heroic weapons from BRF.
I still don't like how the item level gating is right now, because it's all in the same tier of difficulty, but some classes do have weapons off the last boss, and we don't get that opportunity. And what our hunters were really good with when it comes to weapons, some, like Marksman, for example, scales excellently with weapon item level, even with, the 5 level difference. Imagine that Warforged with a socket. It's just gonna be a little unfair.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're not the only class that's affected by that. There's a few that don't have any weapons from the last boss, but I'm guessing that they don't have any weapons from the earlier bosses to balance it. I don't know how it works.
Although given a choice, I think I'd rather get something off the latter bosses, something more powerful, and forego the early ones if that were an option. I mean, I wonder if is it. Well, I'm sure it's deliberate. I don't think it's an oversight. It's probably deliberate. But are they taking into account our damage from trinkets and set bonuses and things? And I mean, is it and that damage plus the lower item level weapons? I mean, does that mean we're outputting the same as those other classes with the higher level weapons? I mean, could be that lucky or?
Yeah, I can't remember which dev it was, but one of them had a forum post that they put up that was saying they were this tier planning on balancing based on both the ring and the trinkets that you get off the last boss. So like if the ring isn't as powerful for your spec, the trinket should be better for your spec. And some kind of weird things like that sound really hard to balance around. So I'm not sure how they plan on pulling it off, especially with the trinkets not being applicable until you've finished the raid. So yeah, I don't know if that'd be really a really bold move if they were planning on giving classes without the weapon options, more power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be a little bit sort of, like you say, hard to balance, a little bit complicated to kind of track as well as implement, but maybe. But like I say, it's always fun to get a good item off the last boss like that. So I think having a ranged weapon off there would have been nice for sure.
Well, that first weapon has the ideal stats for BM at least. It's haste and mastery.
Cool. All right. Yeah, and like I said, we had to wait a while to get a ranged weapon in BlackRock, so getting something right out of the gate, possibly on that first night will be nice. Because those first bosses tend to be, you tend to get those on farm pretty darn quickly, and at least initially for most guilds, that's the one you're gonna see the most. So the chances of getting that weapon early on should be pretty high, which is good. So, well, why don't we talk a little bit about the set bonuses? Now they're available on the PTR. I haven't had a chance to get on there and look at them, but have you guys played around with them? Artemis, have you played around with the set bonuses at all on the PTR?
I've been waiting for raid testing to kind of pop up, but so far I have kind of poked at some of them. I have not touched Survival, admittedly, because I'm just not happy with Survival's direction, as you guys probably know. The BM set bonus is really weird, though, with the focus fire situation going on. I feel like I never have to, once I get 5-stack, I never have to worry about it again. It's like, okay, here we go. I know Bendak mentioned the board being a bit bugged, so I really haven't gone as far as outside of a target dummy to really play with it. And I really need to, I want to play Marksman outside of a usual test dummy yet, and kind of play it in a raid situation before I can fairly judge it, but I kind of like the direction of it right now. I still think BM is going to kind of be the king of everything again next year. That's really early speculation. Who knows what's going to change?
Yeah, Marksman was so much fun to play with the 4-set bonus, which is the instant aimed shot, which is, so Marksman's thing this tier, or this expansion, since they took away the random instance, and there go my dogs. Sorry. It's been kind of slow.
He's got Stampede going on, boys.
It's been a really slow feeling spec. Spend a lot of time waiting. It's felt like caster kind of class. But it's really fun to play with those instants, and especially with Thrill of the Hunt, whenever it comes up and you just get to bam out a bunch of instant aim shots. It's amazing. I really enjoyed it. And at least on Patchwork right now, it's doing amazing single target damage. It's just blowing the other two out of the water. I don't know how it'll be adjusted with the 4-set, but and BM of course doesn't really have a 4 set yet, as it's bugged a bit.
The fun
But
thing
it was
with,
fun to play.
yeah, I mean, the fun thing with Marksman as well is because it's so strong single target, and because we don't have Fox anymore, we can kind of do what an Arcane Mage would do in Siege and just stand in Africa out on our own and just, pew pew.
So the 4-piece for Marksman, that just makes, it's not a proc, right? It just changes the
Right.
aim shot to be instant, like all the time.
Exactly.
So when you think about all the other things, that's interesting because some of the benefits of, well, one of the rapid fire, for example, is reducing the cast time of aim shot, but you don't have to worry about that. Now you just get the crit bonuses and the careful
Those
aim
crits.
and all of that from rapid fire. So that's crazy.
Yeah, and while we're at it, the 2-piece, for those who haven't heard about it, is when you get a crit with Chim Shot, you have a 40% chance to gain rapid fire for 4 seconds. So basically, if you build up a bunch of focus for before you Chim Shot, and you do get that little rapid fire burst, you can knock out 4 aim shots in a row that all crit, and it's just spectacular.
And is Lone Wolf still going to be the way to go, I guess, for marksmanship, or is there any benefit to considering focus fire?
Yeah, because it's a lot more focus starved, I
Not
did
focus
better.
Focusing shot, I mean.
Right.
Yeah,
I did better myself with focusing shot. I don't know if somebody who is really skilled with their focus management might be able to pull off Lone Wolf. I'm not sure. We'll have to see when some sims come out, I guess.
No, I mean, focusing shot kind of makes sense for what Marksman's doing right now, and being able to just build up that much focus quick enough to dump, that much focus out at the same time. So focusing shot right now just feels very powerful once you have your 4 set. I think before you get to your 2 set or 4 set, you're probably going to want to go with Lone Wolf, though.
Yeah, and I like the idea with the 2 set, when you get those little bits of rapid fire going. I mean, of course, I don't know if you want to try and squeeze in a focusing shot there, but probably not. But it would help with the cast time of that a little bit. But I always like focusing shot as an ability, so it just it's nice to see that, at least with marksmanship. So I think marksmanship. I honestly, I think beast mastery and marksmanship will be the 2 specs that pretty much everyone's going to be playing with in 6.2.
Yeah, unless some major overhaul happens to survival in the next month.
Yeah, I keep waiting for something to happen in a new build for survival. I'm just like, this is going to be the build. They're going to do something, but
I really don't think this is how survival is going to be the way it is when it finishes. Otherwise, if it is, I don't know what to expect for survival players in 6.2. Maybe there's going to be some crazy AoE fight where survival has a niche and pulls through with, its new mastery changes and everything, but right now I'm just not feeling it,
Well, it's just the fact that there's no reason to refresh your Serpent Stings before they expire. It's pointless. So I don't know, it just seems kind of, you're not trying to maximize your multi-shots and arcane shots anymore. It's just, every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, is there
Disappointing.
any harm to refreshing the Serpent Sting, or there's just no benefit to it?
There's no harm. It's just there's just no benefit because you don't
Right.
get the instant ticks anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we have a less powerful multi-shot than even Marksman has right now.
As for the set bonuses, the 4-piece for survival isn't working right now either. It's just not doing any damage. But it does, you see the little graphic and the sound effect?
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, it only happens on like the first tick, not every tick. But I don't know, there could be potential there if you get that trinket from Archimond. And you like put Black Arrow on like 3 targets, and then you get a lock and load, and you like, I don't know, say there's a bunch of targets everywhere, and you spread your explosive shots out to each target. You might get like a big AoE spread if there's anything any encounters like that, but that's all I can really think of for that. And we don't even know if it's what kind of damage it is either, like if it's the radius or anything. We have to wait for a future build.
Okay, hang on. 1 second. We're trying to. All right. Which actually, RogerBrown he's typing in Skype, so we're going to bring him on in just a second here. And in fact, I'd like to get his thoughts on. He's like the ultimate survival hunter. He's been, survival for life. So at least want to get his thoughts on where that spec stands and the bonuses as well.
Hello.
Are you there, Roger? Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Okay.
We're good. So we were just talking a little bit about the set bonuses here, and we're touching upon survival, and we're all the opinion that survival seems to be falling way behind here. And I know it's a favorite spec of yours. So what are your thoughts on survival going into 6.2?
Well, there was a huge nerf to survival. Oh, sorry. Wait, I had to mute the stream. There was a huge nerf to survival, which was the fact that your Serpent Sting basically didn't instantly proc when you threw an arcane shot anymore. And that is a massive DPS loss, even though they nerfed something else as well. I can't remember what it was. But this was the big one, the big nerf. And that's why I tried it at the start on the PTR, on a few bosses when we're testing them. And it was just massively behind both the other two hunter specs. So I don't think anyone was going to be playing it unless there's some buff along the way. So unfortunately, probably not going to play survival at all the way it seems now. And also another problem was the Trinket. Basically the balance is going to depend on the tier bonuses and also the trinkets. And the survival Archimon trinket is like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Don't know if you guys know what it is.
It's terrible. Yeah, we were talking about that a minute ago.
Right, yeah, okay, sorry. So that's not going to be used. Having said that, the Marksmanship one is not far off. It's also pretty terrible. Don't know if you talked about that one too, but
not much in that one. That's the long view, right?
Yeah, the further you are away from a boss, the more damage you're going to be doing. Now the problem with that is there's a lot of bosses where you're going to want to gather up in the raid, so you're going to be maybe way closer to the boss than usual. So that makes the trinket completely useless. And also the other problem is that if you're trying to maximize it on a boss, so you're standing far, far, far away, even with a sniper, the mastery, right? It's called sniper training, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So even if you get that buff and you get the extra yards and you're even further away and you get that trinket pushed to the max, okay, the boss moves like 5 yards in the front and you miss like 2 globals because you need to move forward and there's some reaction time. So you miss at least 1 global, which is, negates the whole point of the trinket because the boss moved out of range. So yeah, I think that trinket is also really bad. I haven't tested BM, to be fair, because the other hunters have been testing it. But yeah, I think it's going to be basically marksmanship and Beastmaster, depending on the boss. Marksmanship seems really good, single target, and Beast Mastery obviously for the cleaving part of it. Unfortunately, I don't see survival being better at anything.
I mean, I like the Marksman trinket in concept, but I really do agree with your point so far, especially with my personal experiences in the current retesting. So, it was cool in design, but where is it actually going to follow through? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it would be way better if it said something like, if you are further than 20 yards from a target, you gain this amount of buff, so that you never, you try to be further away from a boss a certain yard range. But when they make it so that it scales, the further you are away from it, then they're balancing it around the fact that you're not going to be, that you're going to be, as far away from the boss as possible. But that's like massive problems there. Like, maybe it's going to be good for some bosses.
To
Okay,
be
well,
honest, well, let's be real here. To be honest, the only fight I actually saw that being like maybe viable-ish on was right now Fell Reaver, and that's still like depending on your strat, kind of pushes it.
yeah, the problem with Fell River though is that uh, basically this trinket has some disadvantage, which is that whenever you're not DPSing a boss, you lose, flat out, you lose of this trinket, like you lose a percent of its value. Whereas if you have a cooldown used trinket, because Fell River charges away when there's the up phase, and you're running away with the debuffs and stuff like that. So during all those seconds that you're not actually DPSing the boss, wait, Fell River is I'm talking about the right boss, right? The one that flies up.
He's the one that
Right.
the second boss. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the other trinket is going to keep coming up on cooldown while you're not doing anything. So you're not really wasting it. So as soon as the boss comes down, you have it again and you press it. Whereas this one just does nothing. When you're doing nothing, it does nothing. And same with MMR, RPPM trinket. The more you don't attack, the more likely it's going to proc later on. So you're still getting some benefit from when there's dead time. So I don't know. Maybe if it had some raw stats on it instead of just this part of the more away you are, the more damage you do. Like if it had some passive agility or something, maybe. But nah, I don't know. I'm not excited about it.
And I'm also hoping that with the testing right now and seeing the players' disinterest in how the Marksman Trinket works, there is possibly a way for them to maybe change how the Marksman Trinket works. I also still think they need to change the focus fire aspect of the BM set right now, but you said you haven't tested BM. Basically, like once you get 5 stacks as Beast Mastery right now, you can have like infinite focus fire uptime, and it's kind of ridiculous. So I think it's kind of silly that you never have to.
It's not even a skill ability, is it?
Right, it's not. It's like literally once you hit 5.
It's easy.
Yeah, it's like, okay, once you hit 5 stacks, you win the fight. Now it's going to be a race of who gets 5 stacks first for parsing, basically.
Yeah, what is it? Basically, you add seconds every time you arcane shot or something, right?
I think it's 3 seconds with arcane shot or multi-shot. So it's like you can have whatever, focus fire for years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, but by the time it falls off, you're going to have it back up because the pet will have 5 stacks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if it falls off too. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I must say though, I didn't even realize, I don't know how I missed it, that the 4-piece for marksmanship was the instant aim shots. That felt kind of cool. I don't know. It kind of brought some memories back when my aim shot was still an instant cast back in Wrath of the Lich King, right? That's when they changed it in Cataclysm.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this also makes it so huge RNG-wise on the pool, how much damage you're going to do. Because in the past, you wanted the thrill of the hand proc, so you can pump those aim shots back to back, right? Now, you throw them even faster, so you can squeeze in even more of those aim shots during your cooldowns, and your potion and everything. So if you keep getting the thrill of the hand procs, you just have an insane burst at the start. And if you don't get any, you're completely screwed. So, I don't know. I did feel though that the marksmanship feeling of I'm a turret and I'm shooting like a truck. So that was cool.
Yeah, I think I don't really like the 4 set, or is it the 2 set? Whatever the one that spawns the Fellbore for BM.
That's the 4 set for BM.
I think it's a little weak though for a 4 set, don't you think? Like it's not as cool of an effect. We've seen that effect before. Like, oh, you summon a pet. TOT, for example, was the latest one where we had like the what was it? The lightning stuff that came out whenever you had like I don't remember. But
that's the set bonus right now too for during Mr. Wrath. You get a pet.
Yeah, current set bonus does
I know,
that
but
too.
again, it's like we see it already. It's like, great,
Yeah.
we want pets. We're hunters. Cool. Let's have something
Oh,
cooler
BM
come out.
hunters want pets.
I know.
Well, it's basically like a dire beast or without the focus part.
Yeah.
Not sure what the damage is yet on him, but he charges in, so he's a little different. He doesn't spawn on the target. He kind of charges in. It looks pretty cool, but right now he misses all of his attacks, so I have no idea what the damage is.
That's right. You mentioned he was bugged currently on the PTR. Obviously, that'll get fixed. But and it lasts for the duration of your focus fire too, correct? So I mean, if what you're saying is
he'll be up the whole fight. Yeah.
Right.
So as soon as as soon as you pop focus fire, that'll be up for forever.
What about the Artemishowl trinket? Did you try it? Where your pet is basically red the whole time, the whole fight?
Almost the whole time. It used to be an extra 50 seconds, but now it's an extra 30 seconds. Your pet's red for 40 seconds, and you're red for 10 seconds.
Right. But what about if you have the reset? If you have the 4-piece from the
2-piece, yeah.
2-piece, right? The 2-piece from Blackrock Foundry.
Well,
it's basically 100%. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, but what if you also have the trinket too, the class trinket, where or I'm sorry, not the class trinket. What am I thinking? Forget it.
We are talking about the class trinket.
Yeah.
It's only 1:30.
Someone's
I've
been
only
at the
been
beach
drinking a
too
bit.
long.
You know what? Leave me alone.
The BM trinket, I don't know. It's definitely the most reliable out of all of them because it's just raw damage. That's all it is. You don't have to worry about distance or putting black arrows on other targets or anything like that.
I had a thought.
Yeah, which is
What if how powerful is that trinket though with the focus fire uptime? When you have permanent focus fire basically with your pet having the 40 seconds of Bestial Wrath.
Yeah, it's powerful because it not only that, but it increases the Bestial Wrath damage by like 12%. So your pet does 32% more damage instead of 20. Actually, on Mythic, I think it's like 20% extra damage. So
At that point, what does your opener kind of look like? Do you wait for the 5 stacks, or are you still popping your? I mean, obviously you're gonna want to pop your Bestial Wrath off the bat, but imagine that now with like getting a 5 stack kind of quickly.
I imagine you might
That'd be
still
a
want to.
ridiculous opener. No, I'm not
It's-
saying delayed Bestial Wrath at all or anything. I'm saying like if you got lucky and you had your 5 stack proc pretty quickly, imagine that on top of like your Stampede being out. Here you have the class trinket, and you also have the 2 set.
Yeah, I'm
It'd
not
just be
sure
a little nuts.
if it'll be worth. I imagine you might still want to use that first stack right away, and then wait till you get your 5 stacks before you use it again, or instead of waiting for the first 5 stacks, so at least the first 20 or 30 seconds of your Stampede has something on it.
Yeah,
Right.
well, you might, unless it's a 5-minute, 40-second fight exactly. Yeah, there's a good chance you'll be delaying Stampede now.
That's true.
It's going to get more benefit from 5 stacks of Focus Fire Frenzy or Frenzy Focus Fire, whatever, for the entire duration than it will from your 10 to 15 seconds of trinket buffs
What about
during part of
heroism
it.
though? And bloodlust.
Yeah, there's heroism and
Yeah,
the
it'll
pre-blood
depend
as
on
well.
a lot.
Yeah, because they really the Stampede pets really scale with haste, so it's I don't know. I guess someone would have to do the math on that if it's worth holding out.
Yeah, and there's just so many variables. We'll have to see on a lot of that stuff. But
Did you guys, did you guys get
Go
the
ahead,
chance
Roger.
to test any of the bosses, or you didn't bother with that?
Of course, yeah. Just not with the new sets or anything yet, so it's been kind of with the raw damage of the old tier sets going in. Monday I should be able to get a first-hand glimpse of everything together, so I'm not going to test survival, obviously, because rest in peace, no offense, but I want to get a try at, sorry, I'm going to get a try at Marksman and BM for sure. The class trinkets in the PTR, correct, right? Yeah, we're good. So yeah, I'm going to be able to hopefully play with everything Monday and just really get a feel of how everything feels for certain fights.
The other trinkets are there too.
Yeah, they
the
have
vendor.
everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did try Archimond. Is it Archimond? That's how you call him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
he's the final boss. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the fight is pretty cool. I think it's a bit complicated in terms of he has some abilities, and then he gains some abilities and loses some of his old ones, but some stay. And then it's just, every few percentages he gains abilities and loses other abilities. So it's kind of confusing, to be honest. It took me some time to actually get a feeling of how this fight is actually supposed to happen. Because, yeah, I mean, at 85% is the first phase change, 70% is the second. I think then it's 40. So you have a big phase of 70 till 40, and then you get to the last phase at 25% or 20. I'm not sure. I think the journal was a bit off. There were some changes done that weren't reflected there. But overall, I tried the fight. I think hunters are pretty decent there because I'm guessing that in the end you're going to want to move a lot in this fight in the room because there's fire jumping from one place to another. Like, as I said, I don't know if you guys seen the fight, but yeah, there's fire which basically jumps where you are standing, so you're gonna have to move. And yeah, I think hunters are gonna be kind of useful there. The only problem that I have is that maybe you're gonna play BM because there is a lot of cleaving involved in this fight. There's a lot of ads coming in. I don't know what will end up being more important, single target damage or the cleaving part. But yeah, there's a lot of ads at some point in the fight. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, and do we know how Marksman and BM single target is comparing with one another? I mean, are they close, or is there a big advantage for Marksman?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because with the 4-piece and the trinkets and everything, we didn't really do a single target boss, right? Like Archimond is way, like there's a lot of things going on. But before of the 4 sets and the trinkets, it did seem like Marksmanship was a little bit ahead in single target. But obviously, when there's cleaving involved, BM is way superior. Then again, there are some fights where you're like, do I really need that much cleave, or is it better to let some other classes do the cleaving and I do the single target? For example, there's that boss where there are those 3 pools. I don't know if you. What is it? I really am not good with.
Yeah, the one with the
names.
hands and stuff where you want to cleave down, right?
Right, there's the gripping hands, which grips you, and then if it's empowered, it drags you towards a pool, and if you reach the pool, you die. If it's not
Yeah.
empowered, it just grabs you and you stay there. So basically what you want to do is group up, not too much though, because when they come out, you take damage AoE around you. Anyways, you group up though, relatively, and then you AoE them down as fast as possible. Now, if you have other classes who can also destroy them without your need to do any damage on them, then you can keep focusing the boss, maybe throw a barrage, and that's it. But if it ends up being a problem, probably BM is going to be better. So it's always, yeah, it depends what is needed to kill a fight. It's not always, in my opinion, about the overall max DPS, because, yeah, damage on the boss matters as well.
And so with Hellfire Citadel, I haven't looked at the bosses too much, but are we finding any special jobs in there? You know, some of those mechanics that hunters have seemed to excel at throughout this whole expansion. You know, the things that don't involve damage, but because we can move and we're hunters, it's our responsibility, like the flamethrowers and things of that nature. Are we seeing any more of those type of mechanics right now?
Right, so I don't want to go into too much detail because maybe there are some things we want to try out, all right?
Uh-huh.
All right, but, some of them might work, might not work. I think, though, that the hunters are not going to be that bad. Like, there are things you can do, obviously, and maybe it's not something that only a hunter can do, but still you're gonna want a hunter to do it. Plus, I think with the removal of aspect of the fox, hunters have this extra advantage of moving while DPSing. So hunters will be useful for certain jobs just because you don't lose any damage, and there are some phases maybe where everyone is supposed to be moving, but hunters can move and DPS at the same time, so they're better at it. Yeah, like as I said, Archimond, for example, there is a phase where you enter a portal and then you go into the Twisting Nether, and there's some single target there, and you need to avoid the star, which if it reaches you, you explode and you die. You're thrown into the Twisting Nether. Good luck, have fun. And yeah, there again, you're moving around. You can still DPS while moving. You only need single target. So yeah, Hunter is excellent in there compared to, let's say, I don't know, a class that doesn't really move as well, because you need, as I said, you need to move away from the star. And the faster you're done with killing the thing inside, the faster you're going to go out, the faster you go back on the boss. So yeah,
And
I think
very well agree with that.
That's where Hunter will probably be selected to go in instead of someone else. Any other special jobs? I mean, there's so many bosses that honestly, I don't even know. Yeah, I can't really think of too much, but as I said, like you have the boss, what's it called? The bird boss. And there's a lot of movement on the bird boss again. So
I hate that fight. Sorry.
I think that fight actually, it hasn't really even been tested properly still after so many tries.
I agree though. A lot of the stuff on that was pretty bugged.
Yeah, like there was an ability which basically didn't work at all. I think the bird fights, honestly, the names are just too weird. I can't remember. There's a lot of movement, so even though there's not really a specific special job required, you wanna bring hunters. That's how I saw it. Now, still wanna see the end, how it ends up with the damage meters, because that still matters, obviously. But I think we're okay. We're okay. We're not gonna be begging for a raid spot. I actually think the instance is not that melee friendly. There's a lot of fights where I was like, well, this sucks for melee. Melees are not really helping here. What's going on?
I agree with you. I think a lot of the fights for melee, you're probably just gonna want like DKs. Not gonna name which ones, but multiple might be nice on a couple fights. And you're gonna want like maybe a rogue for smoke bomb, and then maybe like a warrior. A lot of melee right now just.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree. I think rogues and death knights are definitely the melees you will see in raids over, let's say, a red paladin or an enhancement shaman. I don't think those are going to be that useful. Sorry.
There's a couple fights where I can see enhance being very strong on, but again, that's as enhanced shamans goes, it's like a once in a while fight each tier where it's like, oh my god, I really wish we had an enhanced shaman to really help out with this fight. I really agree with you there. Like, ranger can be really strong, and I can honestly see most guilds, hunters won't be fighting for a spot. You're probably going to want to bring at least 2 in at the bare minimum, just because of the fact that we don't have Fox anymore, but we can do things on the move, and our damage will still peak from that.
Well, that's the thing, because you say, oh, hunters don't have aspects of the Fox anymore, so they have no utility. Why bring them? Well, it goes the other way.
Do.
But they... Yeah, no Fox means less damage while moving for the other casters, so hunters are going to be better. So I don't know, it's a double-edged sword. I don't know.
They're not gonna nerf us to the ground because we don't have Fox. They're going to keep us at a steady balance where, a lot of these moving fights, we're actually going to shine a lot on. There's a lot of fights so far that I've tested where it's like, holy crap, I wish we did have Asp with the Fox for, these healers, because I feel really bad for them, or,
right,
man, these poor DPS, they're missing out on what we can do.
Yeah, I'm like, we're actually jokingly saying on TeamSpeak a lot of times, okay, using Aspect now, when there's a lot of movement, like on what's his name, Kilrog. Yeah, there's a Kilrog, the boss. With spoiler alert, he takes over the Iron Horde because he drinks the blood from Gul'dan. Oh, I'm
Yo,
sorry,
massive spoilers. Calm down here. We're a family-friendly show.
guys. Finish the legendary quest line. Sorry. All right.
I was going to say, I don't know how big a spoiler that is. That's kind of like you said. If you've done your legendary so far, you know this already, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you fight that boss, and there's a phase where he's like whirlwinding, and he spawns, some bolts which explode on your feet. So you are kind of tap dancing. You're moving all the time away from those stuff falling on your feet. So I really don't want to even see how being a caster feels like during that phase. Because without Fox would be perfect there. Would be the best thing. But there's no more Fox. So good luck, casters and healers. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what. So why don't we move on now to do some of the listener Q&A? We've got a few questions to catch up on. So I'll just read this first one here. This was from BGR11123, and he's asking, he says, so I take it steady focus will be the survival talent of choice in 6.2? Well, so assuming that anyone wants to play survival in 6.2, which we kind of determined isn't likely to happen unless there's some big changes, is that a good talent choice for survival hunters?
Well, you might be taking Lone Wolf, in which case steady focus loses a lot of its kind of benefit because your pet's not getting any extra damage from it because you don't have a pet. But yeah, it's really hard to guess the way it is right now. I just can't imagine either thrill or steady focus being much benefit.
Yeah, I actually don't know, to be fair. I don't know. I don't know why you would even want to play survival, honestly. I think
and that's coming from you, especially. That's because I know you love that spec, or you at least have in the past.
Right.
So.
Well, to be honest, I've always loved both specs. I just don't like BM. I don't know. I played it a bit too much in MOP, and I just got bored, and I'm like sick and tired of the pets. To be fair, you have so many bugs always with the pets as well. It's frustrating. You have like the Archimond, as I said. You go into the Twisting Nether. Oh, guess what? Whenever you entered the Twisting Nether, the pet would not follow you. Like, okay, that's great. And I mean, sure, most of these things do get fixed, but you still might have a case where a pet is just bugged or it's just annoying you, and it's gonna be like frustrating playing with a pet. Anyways, so yeah, I've always liked marksmanship though, so I'm glad to play it again. I'm fine with marksmanship or survival. They both feel really nice to me. But yeah, I mean, enjoy marksmanship. Honestly, I think it will be really strong.
Yeah, so I think that's going to have to be we'll get back to you on that. I don't know if anybody
exactly. Yet. Like, I don't want to give anybody info because I honestly don't know how it looks. There's so many new things. Again, tier pieces are different. Tier bonuses, the trinkets, they can change a lot of stuff. So better hold on to your hats for that. I'm sure there's going to be everything simulated and everything will be clear by the time that the patch hits. So don't worry.
And then next up was Artie 1901. So he was asking, so with the Beast Mastery Tier 18-2 set, you'll be able to keep up focus fire indefinitely. That was sort of what he's asking. And then he's asking, because if you can do that, I see the set bonus getting the nerf bat soon. And any concerns? Bendak, are you concerned that they're going to nerf the tier set for Beast Mastery, or you think these are pretty much going to go live as is?
I don't know. I'd like to think that when they made it, they knew that would happen because it's pretty obvious that the results, like, it's almost like they wanted to remove like all that RNG aspect of the spec You know, that's what it feels
Yeah.
like to me. Because now it's just they can almost balance the spec around you having focus fire up. So
To be honest, yeah, that's what it feels to me as well. I mean, as you saw, they just want to make some playstyle difference, I feel like. That's what they did with the marksmanship. Like, Aimshot is an instant cast. That's a massive difference. It feels way different playing with that. And I think that's what they did with focus fire. They also basically said, okay, let's make it permanent, basically, so that it changes your rotation. You don't have to think about it so much. You just put it up at the start, and then, well, if it drops, you just instantly press it again, and you're good to go. So that's how it feels to me. And I think if there's going to be a nerf, it's not going to be to the way that the bonus works. It's more going to be a difference of they're going to nerf how much benefit you get from having it up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and
I
honestly,
understand.
I think that's appropriate. It's, kind of 40% is so much AP. I don't know how they thought that was a good idea, so I won't be at all surprised if we see a nerf to focus fire and how much we get per stack of frenzy.
In
At least
Artemis,
before they nerf the 2 base.
I kind of don't want it to be we get nerfed because of our trinkets or tier sets, though. I kind of want it to be like maybe they change something about the tier sets or trinkets, so it's not like, ridiculously out there. But if we compare ourselves to other classes and specs that are getting some ridiculous things added to them just from these trinkets and tier sets alone, are we really overpowered or are we just balanced? Like, I'm not saying I don't think we're as OP as, we think we are. I have to do some more testing myself, but I think we're fairly good and up there for the most part. If they're going to change anything, they really need to change something about the chew set.
Yeah, I've heard that the rogues get really crazy set bonuses, like across all their specs. So
Warlocks, for example, are fucking insane
warlocks.
right now. Mages,
Warlocks were looking really strong as well. Yeah.
Mages, there's some range right there. Rest in peace, Shadow Priest. I know they're having a really hard time right now, but as far as a class goes, I think we're pretty good as far as skill versus actual output goes for what we have to provide for the rest of the raid.
Yeah.
You have to keep in mind, though, like, we don't have a final weapon off the last boss, and I know it's pretty dumb that some classes get that, but other classes don't as well, but they still get insane tiered procs, or they get insane trinkets, like DKs, rogues. I think warriors were mentioning that they have something really stupid, but I haven't really tested or seen many warriors do as well. But I know, like, for example, warlocks are pretty insane right now in multi-target fights, for example, and I don't really know if we can still compete as well as, say a warlock or a mage with the foresight or trinket.
That's actually interesting that you mentioned it. Do you guys feel like maybe they're actually gonna make it gated how they release the dungeon? Because I hope not, but I was wondering because of the eye level difference on items. Maybe
I don't
they
think it's
will
going to be
split it.
gated. No. I really don't think it's going to be gated except for LFR, but I really think that what they're doing with the item level changes isn't cool or fair at all.
I think it's appropriate that the last boss would have higher eye level. I think that feels pretty nice. You're like, oh, I just killed the last boss, and whatever it drops is going to be more powerful than anything that dropped before. So I think it's a cool aspect, and they have done it in the past, right?
They have, but not nearly as gated as they're doing right now, where it's like,
yeah, right
wing,
now it's
here's another wing, here's another 5 item levels, here's another wing, another 5 item levels. I think it's a little too much, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
maybe they scaled it back a little bit, but
I think so too, because you will have the basically it will end up being that the first bosses, because they drop lower eye level, in the end you're just gonna be like, okay, these are just useless bosses. Why am I even killing them? I don't need anything from them, because everything else is 10 eye levels higher or even more. So why am I even killing these bosses? I don't know. Can you even skip bosses? I doubt it, right? I don't think they're gonna make it.
I'm not sure how they've designed it.
I'm not sure about this tier.
Usually, they've done that in the past, although my guess is they probably will designed it where maybe you can pick and choose where you need to go, but you probably have to kill everything in order to get to the end.
Well, you know how they have the key this tier. I haven't
Yeah.
seen anything about a key for what's the last boss, Archimon, yet. So
Right.
I don't know if you can really skip much. I really think this tier is still sort of. I think it's more gated than it was last year.
It looks like I was looking at Archimon's loot. It looks like gloves will be our offset piece because that's what Archimon has, and they have crit and multi-strike on them.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be higher eye level than the tier, so.
Yep, and that'll be perfect for marksmanship.
So is that Archimond gear, will heroic Archimond gear be better than the mythic first few bosses gear? Like higher eye level?
I think, yeah. Question. It's going to be what, 715?
I'm actually not sure.
Heroic Archimond is 720.
Even
and what's the
worse
mythic from the first bosses?
Or I'm talking about mythic from last year, because obviously.
Oh yeah,
last year was like 700.
Yeah. But what is the mythic of the first boss loot? Can you check?
Yeah, what's another boss name in there?
715, I thought was the mythic initially.
It's the Iron
the
Reaver,
first boss, Iron Reaver.
It's the second boss. I think it's Iron Reaver, right?
Yeah, that would be in the first tier of eye level.
Yeah.
The mythic for Iron Reaver is 720 as well.
Yeah, there you go. So it's the same basically. Yeah.
All right. So what else we got? We have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if they're from us or is this from Allie or not, but they're a couple of pretty good questions. One says, I've heard it's difficult to see the stuff on the floor of the new Hellfire with all the green spell effects. Do you think Blizzard will fix that? You've tested some of this, Roger. I mean, are there issues with the spell effects making it difficult to tell what's going on? Or is it pretty much the same as it's been with other raids in the past?
I can tell you that I think it's because of the visual effects that they have given some spells, right? Mm-hmm. I think it will end up being better if they just work on those visuals. I don't think that there's a big problem with the place per se, like the place being greeny, but it's just that some things just aren't so well shown. So yeah, I agree that there's problem with certain things, but pretty sure they're gonna make it look better and more obvious. It's kind of like the way they did it for what was the name of that boss? The Drake, where you could kill the 3 small drakes, but if you want to do it hard mode, you left them alive and you killed them in the middle.
Sanctum?
Right, yeah. Like Obsidian Sanctum, right? There used to be some red circles, but then they changed them to look blue, right? Or something like that. Because it was the floor was red and you were getting red circles. So then they just changed the color of it, right?
I remember that instance, yes. So that makes sense. Or someone was saying, Sarth 3D. Maybe it was, the Obsidian Sanctum. Yeah, I was thinking of the other one down there that they introduced right after that kind of fill the gap kind of raid. Ruby Sanctum, I think is what it was. I don't know. But I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And there is also some visuals, like we tried the boss with the 3 pools, as I said, where he has the gripping hand, the one we were talking about earlier. And on Mythic, there is like a mechanic where you need to soak things. Every time he drinks from a pool, he will throughout the whole room, he will throw things, and you need to be standing there to soak it up. Otherwise, it stays on the ground forever and basically limits your room where you can move. And you basically can't see it at all. You can't see where it's going to land. Well, basically it lands everywhere, but still, it would be nice to see where it's actually going to land. And they don't have that at all. So I think they're going to change it, though, because it's one of the first bosses. I think it's kind of better if they let you know, things like that, so a bit better visually where things are going to be. Yeah. I'm not sure if the question was because of the effects from players, though, or is it just the boss casting something and it doesn't seem so visible on the floor. I don't know.
Yeah, I assume probably less to do with the player effects, or maybe a combination of player effects and new boss
Right.
effects. Because the player effects haven't changed much at all. I mean, probably not at all moving into 6.2. So it would have to be sort of the new boss spell effects. But
If you want to see some crazy effects, there's that Blade Master Trinket. I don't know if you've tried it.
Oh yeah, I tried it. Where it
Those are
spawns
some-
those whirlwind things. Yeah.
Those are some crazy effects.
Yeah, I wish that they made it so that they follow your target. I think it's really not nice that they stand still there. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe sure.
Yeah, maybe they'd have to, but maybe they do enough damage that it's worth the risk.
Right.
It's you maybe have to plan ahead. Say there's like 3 targets, you kind of have to pick the best target to drop them on.
Yeah, it's only a problem where, okay, the boss is moving and you're like, where should I drop it? Okay, obviously you can work around it and you can place it properly, but just feels like, oh, it's a trinket. I just want to press it and do more damage, and that's it. I don't want to place it somewhere and then the tank is moving the boss and I start screaming to my tank, hey, stop moving! Kind of like the way mages do when they move the boss away from the crystal, right? The prismatic crystal.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny when I used it because they just looked like clones of my hunter doing raptor strikes. It was funny.
Yeah. It's a cool trinket. I'll give them that.
all right. Well, I've got bad news. We've come up upon our hour, and I know Artemis needs to get going, as do I. So why don't we go ahead and wrap this show up, and then we'll just come back. I don't know when we want to come back. I'm thinking we want to do it not next week, but just kind of go every other week after this. Only because next week's a holiday weekend here, so I'm thinking
Next week's a holiday already? Again?
it is. Yes, yeah,
All right, I guess
Memorial
we have to do
Day
it the following week. Oh no.
So we won't do it next week. So why don't we just plan to readjust the schedule, if you will? So we'll go. I guess we'll see you in June,
May 31st.
May 31st. Yeah, there you go. All right.
There we go. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you have been listening to episode 217 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from Thrill of the Wild and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak Wow on Twitter.
Check us out
Artemis.
Oops.
Oh.
No, you're
No.
right. I
Oh, no.
screwed that up.
No, I'm Artemis. You're not Artemis.
No, definitely not.
I'm Artemishowl from @Artemishowl on Twitter, Warcraft Hunters Union, and the beach.
Ah, the beach. All right. Well, check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or add our RSS feed to your reader, and we'll have all these links available in our show notes.
If you have a question or topic you would like us to discuss on the show, email us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at huntingpartypod.
Yep, and we will maybe read this if you send it in. We're getting better at that. All right. Stay thirsty, my friends. Remember to drink your dark brew lager.
Siempre prestar la emoción de lo salvaje.
Keep your eyes on the beast.
Don't forget to pay your dues.
And for the Horde.
And thank you, Roger, for joining us this week. We need to get you an outro. I mean, even though you're not here every week, but you're here enough now that yeah.
Well, I just thought of one. Pray for no hunter nerfs, because a patch is coming. So. Oh man.
I think you mean pray for survival buffs. I mean,
right.
The class is fine right now, but survival, we need to talk, my friend.
Yeah, maybe it can be something with surviving. My outro. I don't know.
There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out. Well, but like I said, you're welcome to join us any time that you're available. So we love having you on part of the show. So, all right, guys. Well, on that note, I got to get running. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the 31st.
That's just the cost of being an awesome sauce. A dues payer, a boss slayer. I rock out with my lockout Viper to cheetah to dragon hawk. No time to waste, cause I can jump shot. BM, MM, and SB. I can rock out any tree. worried about my threat, 'cause I've got FD and misdirect. Catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, 'cause I am hit capped. 'Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top the meters every fight. Rated NK dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malygos. We even killed the Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Anubarak, Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Magthuridon, Sapuron, Lucifer to Sulfuron, Archimon, Amalon, Coromon, and Algalon. The faction champions, the death toll rolling on and on. Garvale, Executus, Chromagus, and Charaxus. Moon, Luru, Kilthus. We won't stop till kill our boss.
All my read skills right